All right, gentlemen, Color 101. As we've read through Chapter 4 on color, this is some of the background information that you'll need to know. Basics are, where does color come from? It comes from light. We need light to actually see color, whether it's natural from the sun or if it's artificial from an indoor light source. If you have no light, you can see no color. What is a spectrum? A spectrum is, in our old terms, was probably called a rainbow when we were in grade school. But as we started to learn about science and the way light works in science classes, we learned that color of light comes from white light. White light, as it touches or bounces off of some reflective surface, can then produce 7 bands of individual colors. They're called the spectrum. Refraction is the actual breaking or bending of the white light, the action that creates those 7 colors. The Pink Floyd album here from Dark Side of the Moon kind of shows the illustration of if you have a prism and white light goes into or bounces off of the prism, that white light breaks or bends, and out the other side comes those 7 bands of color. Refraction is what happens to make those colors appear. Just a little Star Wars funny. All right, those 7 visible colors always appear in the same order: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Indigo is sort of a blue-violet kind of a color. If you've ever seen a double rainbow, a lot of times a double rainbow is reflecting the original rainbow off of another surface or another reflection of water or clouds or rain. And the rainbow then goes backwards. You might see it go red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, then violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. That's the only time you might see it go backwards. Otherwise, it is always in the Roy G. Biv, some people remember it that way as an anagram, for the order of those spectral colors. There are colors that are not found in the spectrum, okay? We don't see things such as grays, blacks, or browns, right? These are colors that we see in nature. So we tend to call these neutrals. They're not made by breaking light. These are seen by reflecting colors back up to our eyes. Black and white also are not necessarily colors that we totally see unless we put all of the primary colors of light together. The primary colors of light are red, blue, and green. And when they hover over the top of each other, the red over the blue over the green, the color returns back to its original format, white, prior to breaking or refracting. It's crazy, all right? So we say that white is the presence of all colors because all of these colors of light come from a broken white light beam originally. Black, we say, is the absence of all colors. When we're looking at something, lights bounce off of a subject or off of a surface and they reflect back to our eyes. Well, with black, think of asphalt or the ground outside on the street. It absorbs all color, all right? Nothing bounces back off of it to reflect back to our eyes. It absorbs all color. So we say that black is the absence of all reflected light. Nothing can reflect off of black. Here's just a visual photograph image showing you of those actual primary colors of light, of what happens when they overlap each other and how they do kind of go back to their original format of white, which became, which when refracted, created all these colors to begin with. Now, light and pigments are different. Pigments are solids. Light, obviously, see-through, right? So being that pigments are more solid, pigments are used to make um, inks, crayons, paints, watercolors, colored paper, dyes. But powder is used, powdered form of paints are used to create these different solid colors that we as artists tend to mix. The word hue in our textbook is synonymous with the word color. So when someone says, hey, the hue of his shirt is blue, they just mean the color of his shirt is blue. The word color and hue interchangeable. The artist color wheel that we work with has many more colors than the rainbow colors of light or the spectrum. Okay? The spectrum can only create so many colors because of its transparency, the see-through quality of light. The solidness of pigments allows us to create even more mixtures of colors, 12 in fact. These names and colors are based on the light spectrum. So you'll notice there's blue, violet, rather than indigo, but then there we do use the term violet, which is the scientific term for that color. One way to think of the color wheel is to kind of remember where the colors go based on the actual clock. Since there's 12 colors, the face of a clock has 12 hours in a day or in a half a day. And so we kind of remember where the colors go based on the numbers on the face of a clock. For us, yellow is always going to be at 12 o'clock. As you probably know from grade school somewhere along the line, the primary colors of painting, pigment, are red, yellow, and blue. The importance of these is significant. From all of these colors come all the other colors on our color wheel. They're considered the parents. They start everything. There is no way to mix colors together to make a pure yellow. There are no colors to mix to make a pure blue. And there are no colors to mix together to make a pure red. They are the beginning, okay? They are first, which is why we call them primary. Primary means first. So again, like I said, from all three of these colors, we get more colors. Notice how you have red and yellow, you get orange. Yellow and blue, you get green. Blue and red, we get violet. And so on. All right, the primary colors are placed at 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock on the color wheel. If you put a line between all three of these colors, you would get something triangular. We call this a triad. So we call these three colors the primary triad. Artwork in general can be made with just these primary colors. The image in the lower left is from an artist named Piet Mondrian, and he felt like he wanted to work with the purest colors available to every artist. And that would be the parent colors, the red, the yellow, and the blue. He simplified his work down into compositions of emphasis and areas of interest using different kinds of rectangular shapes. So he broke things down into the most simplest form and what he considered the purest, being those primary colors. Again, we mentioned how if you mix two primaries together, you get a secondary color. So our secondary colors are green, orange, and violet. All right. Notice that they sit in between their parents on the color wheel. Okay. They also, when connected, create a triangle or a triad on the wheel. So check this out. You add one primary to another primary, and you get a secondary. Look at that. It's like a math problem. Secondary colors, like we mentioned, they hold a different place on the color wheel. They're in between their parents at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. And here's some examples of primary colors in action working together. Now, what do we get when we mix a primary, a 1, and a secondary, a 2, neighboring it together? We get a tertiary. Tertiary means 3 or third. All right? So that means if we mix a primary color, a primary yellow with a secondary green, we're going to get yellow green. Ta-da! A 1 and a 2 make a 3. Wow. Okay. Notice that all of these tertiary colors that come from a primary and a secondary parent being mixed together, they live on all the odd numbers on the color wheel. We label them with their primary or parent color listed first. For example, if this is between orange and red, he's going to be called red-orange because the primary parent always gets listed first. Now that we have our basic 12 colors, there's 3 ways that we can utilize colors in any work of art. We can work with just the plain pure hue. We could change the colors by value, and we can change them by intensity. So there's 3 properties of working with color. Values. It's the lightness and darkness of a color. You'll add black or white to make a color either darker or lighter. Many times artists will produce a value scale to get a feeling for what that color's lights and darks can produce. This helps us start to create form. This image here of the sphere shows us brighter light areas to medium to darker areas, even down here to shadows. So value is super important for us to see the form or dimension of objects if we want to create that illusion. Technically, if we add white with a hue or color, we call this a tint. That gets you many pastel colors like you see here on the right with the Q-tips. If you add black with a hue color, you'll get what we call a shade. So this begins to evaluate or explore all of the light values of a color and all of the dark values. If we mix black and white together, we get a whole nother set, and these are called tones. This means we're putting gray into the color, and we're starting to sort of gray the color out. Value can be very important for setting a mood or a tone or a feeling to a painting. Check out the girl here on the left. She has a lot of illumination coming from behind and the sides of her face. Kind of gives a glow to her. More of the lighter values are there and darker ones are other places. The picture down below is called Nighthawks. It's another one of those paintings that American artists have spoofed over the years, kind of like American Gothic. But this picture by Edward Hopper has very dark contrast versus a very light illuminated store at late night. So you get this feeling that these folks have been up for quite a while. Intensity is a way to dull a color. We've lightened it and we've darkened it with values. Now, what if you just want the color to be a little less bright? All right. We can dull a color by putting its opposite color from it on the color wheel and mix it into it. For example, Here's a bright orange at the top. By adding tiny bits of blue, you can begin to dull and almost brown out that color. Not all the time do you want to work with a bright, obnoxious yellow. Maybe you want more of a golden yellow. By adding a little violet to that, you'll get more of a golden colored yellow. Where if you added black to it, which is a value, that yellow would just turn green. I promise. You should try it. It's gross. All complementary colors, when mixed equally together, produce some kind of a neutral brown or gray. So if you ever have a need for a brown or a grayish color in your projects, pick two complements. Here's some examples of how the colors kind of start to affect each other. Green with red added slowly. Red with green added slowly. Eventually you'll get some kind of brown color. Complementary colors can paint an entire picture. This one here of pears, red and green mixed together. They've got red and green mixed in the background with a little bit of white, and then down here a whole lot of white to produce different kinds of values and intensity changes in that picture.